What's up, it's Jim from On Point Samples, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can create gated raw style kicks in Serum 2. In this kick series I want to show you how you can create any hardstyle kick in Serum 2 only, which is very helpful because you can use it as a finalized kick and just go with that, or you can take that as a starting point, cut it up into a punch and crunch, and process your kick the more conventional way. I already made a few kicks and this is the type of sound that we're going to make today. This is 100% Serum 2 only, which is honestly kind of crazy. And after this video, you'll know how to make these as well. So you can download these presets alongside some extras 100% for free on our website. And I'll also make sure to go slow so you can really copy my settings and see what I'm doing and why I'm doing stuff. So let's start with an initialized preset. The way we're going to set this up is the same way we always do that in the playlist. Punch, rumble, reverb. Visualize it that way in Serum 2 and it will help you a lot. So oscillator A will be our click, which will be default shapes on sine wave, and oscillator B will be the rumble. And instead of using a waveform, we're going to use a sample. Just use a normal club kick. Kicks, doodah kicks are great. Right? Then we can think about the routing. Just use oscillator A going to the filter here and make sure that the filter goes to nothing and bus 1. This will be our punch channel. Oscillator B can go to nothing and to bus 2, which will be our rumble channel. So at this point, I'm going to disable B and I'm going to use a multi-filter for oscillator A. Multi-filters combine multiple filters, which is helpful for punches because we can do multiple boosts and bell curves and whatever to really boost the punch in the right way. One that I like is the bend notch 12. You can just immediately open the drive, add a frequency, and we'll work on this later. Let's take down the phase randomization so the kick stays consistent and doesn't play a different phase point each time. Now we're going to use LFO1 on envelope with a bit of a transient and a curve like this. That is going to be our volume right here. Then LFO2 will be a pitch curve like this that we add to the coarse pitch. And then we do that one more time as well with 3, so we have double control over the coarse pitch. And then I'm going to use LFO4 with the same shape but a bit more pitchy like this that will assign to the global main tuning. This way we can really get that click if we need it, like that or like this. So now we're going to add some basic processing that will help dial in all the other effects that we'll add before that processing later. This way we know what we're tweaking and how it will sound in the end. Because as you can hear, moving this doesn't really sound great until we add processing. In main, I'm immediately adding a hard clipper. And I'm adding a compressor multiband, which will have upwards and downwards multiband compression. You can remove the downwards because I don't like it. It's too squeezy. Open the below to open the upwards compression. And we add this kind of ready out of the box sound immediately. This will play with the phase though, so render out your kick as a final instead of playing the kick in Serum 2. Now in bus 1, I'm going to add a little bit of hard clipping. You really want to make sure you're driving this punch. That's why the drive here is open too on the filter. And I'm adding an EQ in front just to add a bit of a tone boost. Then we can use LFO5 to add some sort of transient vibe that is a bit more interesting like this on envelope. And we add that to the cutoff here. Let's just start at 130 or something, open it up a bit. And let's do that to the frequency here as well. Just do whatever sounds good. You don't have to replicate what I'm doing here 100% as long as it sounds generally good, right? And then it's time to process the rumble. So disable A, open B. Let's remove a little bit of the kick in the beginning. Simply like this, level down, open up. I'm doing this because I don't want to rumble the top click of the punch. Go to bus 2 and now we're going to do the following. Add a filter on combs just to change the tone a bit. You can boost that a bit. Now we're going to add reverb on Hall, size open, decay open, no high cut, no rate and depth, so it's very consistent reverb. And we're going to open that up sort of with a reverb like this. Then add distortion on tube. Then we're going to cut the highs. Then we're going to add a utility with mono bass. We're going to add another tube distortion. And finally, I am adding another compressor on multiband all the way down again with opened here. So I want to add an equalizer here just to control the mids a bit. So put this on a bell curve and take that down a bit. So I'm listening to the rumble, and you'll run into issues like this as well. It's a bit too muddy, you know what I mean? So let's just play around and find a better one. If you want to prevent that endless reverb tail, just make sure that 7 stops at the end a little bit. Cool. So now combined, the only thing to do here is now using another LFO to kind of control how the rumble blends in. So the reason we want to do it again is because first we added an automation here on the level, sure, and you think it might be blended in, but then it got distorted, rumbled, everything else, and we kind of have to control the volume again. So LFO 8 can now go to the utility if they take that down here and open the level. Combined. So at this point, the setup might look complicated, but it's not. It's a punch with pitch automation with a filter. Then we have a sample, a kick sample. You can load anything you want in here. That became a rumble. The punch and rumble come together in main. And now you can add some effects that you could always throw on these kicks to make them better. The first thing I want you to add is a diode 2, which will make the kick more rounded out. But not like this, but just a bit, right? After the hard clipper. Then you can add an equalizer in front of the distortions again. And we're gonna really cut into the low mid / high bass. These kicks get really good if you hollow out a kick a lot. And you can use the equalizer firstly. Maybe add a boost here. Then you can add a filter on a phaser mode, put that in front of everything, and use a +1 and don't cut into the lows like this, because your kick is going to lose power because there's no bass anymore. Or use a -1, but just take down the mix, because now it's cutting the lows away. If you take down the mix, you get your lows back. At this point, it's also cool to add another filter, which will be a Combs filter. Listen to how that sounds. That's pretty cool, but it needs a lot more processing to make this work. So at this point, add another hard clipper after everything. But not too much. And maybe add an equalizer to boost the highs a bit. Take down the mix of the Combs filter here and see what happens. You can change the tone of your kick a lot. And this will depend on the combination between the Combs, phaser, and the filter here. So don't get too worried if your kick doesn't exactly sound like this. It's just the setup that has to be kind of the same. So what you can then do is on top of this, in the final kick here, add reverb. We're going to add this in front of the compressor and after the distortion, just so it doesn't get super distorted like this. Put it wherever you want, of course. All the highs, so we have a lot of nice high information to spice up the kick, and use the hall reverb and take the rate and depth down again, so it's not modulated and it's a very clean reverb. Let's use a reverb LFO. An effect that I really like is kind of opening it during the punch and then opening it at the end like this. We can add LFO 9 right here on the mix. This reverb will allow you to also add a lot of character to your kick, because you can also just add it as a triplet sort of. Like that, you know? Or you can really change how this kick sounds a lot just with this reverb LFO. Just take that Combs filter down a bit with the mix. So now that you have this, let's play around with the wavetables just to find something that maybe works better. I'm looking for a sine wave that has a bit more information that sounds good. So this is the setup. You made your punch and rumble. You changed the wavetables a bit, changed the kick sample for the rumble. You have your whole chain in place right here. So now you can really spice it up by adding more distortions, more stages of reverb, more multiband compression, and changing the blends between all these LFOs. This is a very, very important part. So if I listen to this kick, what I dislike is how it's so impacty. I want it to be longer. So what I'm gonna do is remember what we did with the sample here and the rumble. First of all, LFO 6 controlled the level of B before it got into the rumble. This is basically like, hey, the sample only starts here and then it gets rumbled, right? What if we just opened it up a bit? So we have more rumble information. And then LFO 8, remember it went to bus 2 and it went to the utility right here. Let's open it up a bit like this. Listen how the rumble only hits here now. Let's change the blend, right? We can do the same thing with the reverb, just kind of make it a bit more blended. Now we can also increase the length of the level of A, which means we get more of filter 1. And remember that filter 1 was controlled by LFO 5 here. Now you gotta think about this filter combined with the combs filter in the beginning, and these phases here are gonna result in different kicks, because maybe if you remove the bass too much here, the combs filter gets more presence, you know what I mean? Like this, so you compensate with more volume. Changing it. See what I mean? So at this stage, you have to make sure the bass is mono. Put it on mono bass, make sure the bass crosses over at like 300 Hertz, and anything under that is mono. It's after the reverb. Now we're gonna use our final LFO as a sort of fish shape like this, so we can enhance the transient. We can add that to the utility here if you take that down, add that, make sure it's on envelope. And now you can cut into the kick. And now it's just literally playing around, trying to find different punch filters. So now I am gonna play around and see where I can get just by moving knobs. You should understand the things that I've added, and you can do the same process, just move the cutoffs and move things, okay? The combs filter is doing a lot in creating that sort of like smeared out punch. I changed the length of LFO1 for the punch level, volume. That's basically the blend between punch and rumble. Changing the pitch automations. Changing the mega pitch here, the very clicky one that went to the master tune. What I'm thinking now is I could add another combs filter, which is only going to affect the punch, because I like how it smears out, right? Pretty cool. Let's just use LFO5, which affects the punch only. Add resonance, drive. Reverb filter maybe. Pretty fire. Another filter that's really fun to throw on this is the diffuser filter. Serum to diffuser stages up. It works in certain positions because it changes the phase of the kick a bit. What we can add is another distortion somewhere between the filters and add a diode just to squeeze in and add a bit more power. Maybe let's play around with the rumble a bit to clean that up. See, I removed the kind of crunch a bit because we reduced the sub. We go back in main and then we add a bit more highs and a bit more bass in the end, maybe. Maybe we can compress it again, just to make it a bit better. The reverb is a bit extreme, right? So then I roll that off a bit. And finally, a very cool trick that I found, because I also played you a Kloenk type kick. We basically added two pitch automations, right? And this one to the coarse pitch here. If you just reverse one of them, you kind of just counteract the effect, and it sounds pretty clunky. Now we just kind of need to improve the punch. So I go to the bus 1 punch channel, I add distortion, and you can change the tone a bit if you like. I do think that the kick sounds a bit mono, so I'm taking the bass mono down a bit. Play around with the punch here. Maybe play around with the blend a bit. So that is basically what you can do. Laser kick, more rumbly kick, or even that Kloenk kick by reversing it. I created a pack that you can download for free with those kicks as well as these here. And you can study these presets to really understand what I did if it went a bit too fast for you. And don't be discouraged if your kick didn't get there quite yet. It is a very complicated tutorial and it's a lot to take in. Watch it again maybe and really play around because it takes a few tries to get it right. It did for me. To help you understand these kicks in like a few ground rules, I guess, and if you take anything home for this tutorial, it's the following. First of all, these kicks get good because you hollow them out. If you take away the frequencies instead of like boosting them, it's gonna really get your final kick there, you know? Listen to this kick without the hollowing. Phaser gone, equalizer gone, and in the rumble, I'm also removing this big hollow that I did right there. It's incredibly muddy. Another thing that I skipped over a bit fast is that we monoed the bass. Always do that with any kick actually. If you add reverb especially, it's gonna create phase issues in the low end. And if you put your bass on mono, at least you're collapsing that and you can fix your phase issues a bit. After the reverb in main, put a utility, mono the bass right here and make a crossover around 300 Hertz. Then, as you can remember, we put the fish shape here on the utility volume, and this is important to add dynamic range. And the deeper you cut it like this, the more dynamic range you get. Another reason your punch might not work, which kind of ruins the kick, is because you didn't include enough sub. So if you play around with these filters and you move the frequencies too much to the right, especially with these high pass, band pass filters, you remove the low frequencies. Ironically, this sounds pretty funny, but it's better if you kind of make sure you have some bass. See? Finally, your kick might not work if you don't play with the LFOs properly. So you can change a lot with the pitching. Like you might have done this. And then your kick is ruined, right? So try to dial that in and you get your kick back, okay? Same goes for the blend between A, right here, and the rumble with LFO 8. Blend those properly. And you can make your kick work. And the final cool trick that I didn't show, but you kind of should know, is that remember that we had our filter 1 here, right? How about not driving that to bus 1 immediately, but getting that to filter 2 instead? In filter 2, deselect main and add it to 1 again. So now we basically add a filter after the first filter and then we split it up again, you know? So we only have that going to the punch channel. So now it's low pass, and instead of using a low pass, we're gonna just use like an all pass filter or a Combs filter. Really get the resonance up. That is extreme and we don't want that. But now you just use LFO 1, which controls the blend of the punch. Panning to smear it and try different filters. Maybe reduce the mix. And suddenly you upgraded your punch with a really cool filter from this to that. So if you found this helpful, leave a like and a comment, and please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or things you want to see in the future. Make sure you download all these presets, the one I made, for free with the link below, no email required. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.